Good morning, friends. This is your personal wake-up call from Ron Burgundy. Hey, lazy, wake up!
Are you kidding me?
The Gigi's fans are stunned in silence.
They get it in deep to Turnbull. Stu Turnbull for the win.
Welcome everyone to OUA Today, episode 16. We are happening right now at the OUA Honor Awards. Marshall Ferguson here alongside McMaster Athletics Director Glen Grunwald. Glen, thank you for being here. Before I begin, should mention as well how to follow us anytime you want, because this is going out on radio, on YouTube, and also going up on iTunes, at OUA Today on Twitter, at Marsh2Fergs, and Glen has a Twitter account, which is not very well known. I've been trying to get it blown up lately because he is a great follow on Twitter if you get a chance. Tell everyone what your Twitter handle is.
I don't even know. I think it's at Grunwald/Glen.
We'll find it and we'll send it out from OUA Today because it is a good follow. It's fun having you on Twitter because I think it's one of those things where sometimes you have necessarily a new executive or a new administration member, and sometimes when you are not in the millennial age group, you might not jump into that Twitter sphere.
Well, Marshall, you liked one of my videos that I posted, and you were the one person that liked it. And if you just go to my website to look at this video, it's an 89-year-old veteran from the Kansas Jayhawks football team running for a touchdown in their alumni flag football game. It's amazing.
It was very amazing. And again, I spoke to you off camera about it, but it was the whole concept of the NCAA doing this with different people who have, there was a Down syndrome individual who did it, I believe, at the University of Southern California not long ago. There was Jack Donahue, a young 8-year-old boy who was struggling with cancer, brain cancer, I believe, that did it at the Nebraska spring game. But to have an 89-year-old doing it with people diving around, and the best part is, and you'll appreciate this, is as a high-level athlete and a former decade, we'll say, you can still see him throwing the head fakes and trying to make moves because
he was definitely a former football player.
You know that his body is used to that kind of movement pattern. So it's very fun. Check it out, and we will hook it up with sending it out from OUA Today. But I have you here at the OUA Honor Awards because I want to talk to you a little bit about your first year. Touch on a little bit maybe of the NBA playoffs because obviously great involvement in the NBA. What is kind of your takeaway from your first year in the OUA? Because you've been around and you've seen it and you've lived in Toronto and you've been around Hamilton, but now that you're inside the walls of the OUA, how has your first year been?
It's been wonderful. Well, athletically we did very well. We had a great football team thanks to you and your teammates.
It wasn't thanks to me. I had a lot of good guys around me. So.
We had three other OUA championships, so it was great fun to be part of that. To get to know the young people, the student athletes on our campus are just really a set of wonderful people. Our coaches, great coaches, and they're dedicated to their craft, and it's great to be able to work with them. We have our challenges, but I tell you, we do so much good stuff. I think we just need to tell our story, get out there so people understand all the good things that are going on at McMaster and across the OUA.
I'll hit you with the hardball question second. Here we go. You were kind of handed a very well put together situation. I think you would agree that Jeff Giles put in a lot of work, did a lot of great things. It's almost as if you're an NBA executive and you've been handed a team that's made the NBA Finals 6 times in the last 10 years. And where do you go from there, right? Because the expectations are now so high that how do you take that to the next level? Because the next level is so marginal compared to what some other programs have to deal with.
Right, normally in a sports job, you take over a situation that's been struggling and they're making a change to try and improve it.
Right.
Here the change was for a different reason. So you're right, Jeff did a great job, and before Jeff, Therese Quigley, who's now Webster.
Yeah.
So, we have obviously room for improvement. No championships at the CIS level, so there's something there. But also just improving the student athlete experience that we offer people that attend McMaster University, I think is important, so that they have a great experience and can feel very good about the time they spend at McMaster University.
What is something that you've learned now that you are working inside the athletics office at McMaster that perhaps when you were being interviewed or considered for the job you weren't aware of? Something that when you actually got inside you said, oh wow, this is the way that this operation works, or something that kind of stood out to you now that you are several months into the job?
I think it's the breadth of our operation. Not only is it all the sports we offer, some 30 sports at various levels, but also the intramural programs, the instructional programming, the amount of community users we have at our various facilities, whether it's junior football or swim teams. all the stuff that goes on there, it truly is amazing, the breadth of the operation that we have. We almost stage our own mini Pan Am games every weekend sometimes in the fall.
Yes, it's very true. I always say on our OUA Today radio show, covering the OUA is like an 8-month-long Olympics. And there's male, female sports going on all over the place, and it's very difficult sometimes to get a grasp for the entire kind of circumference of what's going on inside the OUA. So that would definitely be something I imagine that would jump out to you. But if you had to pick your favorite moment, one moment in time that was your favorite from the year, what would it be?
You're going to think I'm just, brown-nosing here a little bit, but no, it was my first day on the job, September 1st, Labor Day. McMaster playing Guelph. We're down big in the whole game. It looks like, oh my goodness. I came here and turning things around to be discussed, but it turns out
your quarterback
we win in overtime, and Marshall Ferguson runs it in. That was the amazing part. That was a great event for me, and it's just showed that the culture, our team, they were winners. They had that DNA championship culture, and then to be able to come back and win a game like that was very exciting for me and a real pleasure to watch.
That was the Grunwald effect on McMaster football. The first day, this guy is able to pull some type of athleticism out of his body that he's never had in his life and never had since. I'm glad to hear that was a great moment for you. And the heat on the field that day.
Yeah, it was hot.
It was incredible. It was one of those things where I was in the game and I had no idea what the heat was, and then we got to the media scrum afterwards, and they said, so it was 42 degrees out there and blah, blah, blah on the turf. What did you think? I said, really? It's 42 degrees? I had no idea because you're oblivious inside the moment.
Right.
Was there a time when you were playing basketball at the University of Indiana where you went into a post-game scrum or you went into a post-game moment in the locker room with your guys and something was a blur that was actually a major moment and you had no idea that it had happened? Whether it was in a national championship or otherwise where, maybe a guy fouled out and you had no idea that he had fouled out of a game or that a coach had got a technical or someone had been ejected or...
Well, it was, I think, a game at Iowa, my last year, maybe my second to last year, 1980. Isaiah Thomas was on the team.
Yep.
And he punched a player on the other team so quickly that no one noticed it. And the player was down on the ground, and then we had to go back and look at the film, and it was, that's what happened.
Really?
So, yeah, he was a tough player, Isaiah Thomas, and it was an interesting situation.
What was he like as a teammate at Indiana? Aside from the competitive nature of him, obviously he went on to be with the Bad Boys and the whole history of him being an executive in some different places, but in practice, what is Isaiah Thomas like when you played with him at Indiana?
Well, Isaiah was a great leader. He really picked out the guys on the team that needed to play better, and he really worked with them, encouraged them, pushed them. And his leadership was a key ingredient in the 1981 NCAA National Championship team. He never talked to me, never encouraged me for obvious reasons. But he picked out a guy like Landon Turner and really encouraged him. Now, Landon Turner was a great player. He had never played very much before, but with Isaiah there, the encouragement and his own work, he turned into a great player. So he would have been a long-time NBA All-Star had Landon not gotten injured. That's an unfortunate part.
Yeah, definitely. What did you take from your time as a university athlete that you can now apply to your experience as a university administrator?
Well, just my own experience about how important athletics was to me at the time I was going through it, and what it meant to me, and what it still means to me this day. So to understand you're making a big difference in young people's lives, and something that's not only going to be critical to them while they're doing it, but even afterwards.
Right.
And I'm not talking about the life experiences, which are important. It's just in terms of the importance to that individual and how much it means to them to take that responsibility very seriously.
You were the part of the last undefeated national championship team, is that correct?
No, that was the year before.
That was before
you? I arrived and turned it right around.
Okay, I was going to say, because I know that stat...
But I was rooting for people to beat Kentucky just because the Hoosiers, the Indiana Hoosiers, were the last undefeated team.
I was going to say, if that was the case, because that stat was thrown around, there was some miscommunication on, I was going to ask if you were like Don Shula every time someone loses in the NFL, popping bottles somewhere with your boys from the Hoosiers.
No, I was happy about it, but no champagne flowed.
That's good. Switch gears a little bit here. NBA, your connection with them. I wanted to ask you, based on something that popped up and was interesting to me as you as a former executive in the NBA with the Toronto Raptors, among other places, the New York Knicks, most recently as the general manager, looking at guys going into the NFL draft. There was La'el Collins, who was questioned in connection with the murder of his ex-girlfriend. Aaron Hernandez, the Patriots said, we did all the due diligence in the world that we possibly could, and they still said that they didn't really understand his background. They were shocked by what happened afterwards. When you were an executive in the NBA and you were looking at drafting someone, how much research do you do on their background, their off-court, and try to get to know the person above all else?
Well, incredible amount, actually. So you do a lot of interviews with people that had worked with them, and played with them, and coached them, back to high school, family, find out about the family situation, and what's important. You know, obviously criminal background checks and things of that nature. They do some psychological testing, so it's very important. And you know, sometimes you miss on a player that turns out to be pretty good. I remember when I was in Toronto, I forgot the exact year, but Zach Randolph was in the draft. He was available to us, but he had just been arrested for some gun possession charges.
Yep.
So I said, I'm sorry, I can't draft Zach in that position. And we took someone else that didn't quite work out, unfortunately. But, you know, that's the kind of stuff you have to make decisions. Fortunately, Zach turned his life around.
Yep.
He was a good guy. He actually worked with him when he was at the Knicks briefly.
Right.
So it doesn't always hold true, but sometimes you make those decisions because they are important. Character is such an important thing. Ultimately, if someone with bad character is going to catch up with you, it's going to hurt you.
Yeah.
No matter how talented, ultimately you're not winning someone with bad character.
When you see someone like Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys, and again, NBA, NFL, different worlds, but also very similar in terms of the executive side and having to make those tough decisions. When you see someone like Jerry Jones who is looking at a Randy Gregory at Nebraska with a marijuana violation and looking at a Lael Collins who goes undrafted because he's just untouchable to most teams, and you see teams like that consistently signing guys that have that kind of questionable character, I think we can say, does that scare the hell out of you as a former executive where you look at it and you say, I don't know how you can get away with that or how you can improve that past A, B, and C?
Well, you know, people do deserve second chances sometimes.
Yep.
So you have to understand where they're at and how they reacted to their past troubles. So, I mean, you can't write off someone's entire life because they made one or two mistakes, but you have to really sort of get behind that and try and understand, is that a character flaw that can't be fixed, or is that a mistake made by a young person that, you know, with proper guidance and commitment on their part, things can be turned around. They can actually be a contributing member to a good winning culture.
I can't let you get away without talking a little bit about the Raptors. I know this is probably your 5,000th post-playoffs interview where people have said, what happened to Glen? But, but the reality is, it was disappointing. I know you watch hoops all year long. I talked to you during the season. You said you're following along. If you are Masai Ujiri at the trade deadline, in hindsight, with everything 2020, do you make any changes?
Maybe, yeah, maybe you try and do something different now that you have the benefit of having a poor second half of the season after the All-Star break, a losing record, and then being swept in the playoffs. You know, obviously, you might go back and say, well, if I know what I knew then, what would I change differently? And I think they were looking for some veteran presence. I think they were, you know, rumors were there after some pretty good veterans there. But no, it's a process that he's going through. So this is the second year that they've been successful, and so obviously they want to improve further. And they have a whole offseason to improve. They have some cap room, a draft choice, so they'll be able to do some things, and I think they'll be better.
Yeah, they have pieces moving forward, and you know the Boston Celtics seem like they're on possibly a bit of an upswing. They've got all sorts of picks and different things to work with, but the idea has floated around lately, and you probably know more about it than I do, and you're slightly more connected in the NBA than I, but the idea of scrapping divisions. Is that something that you think is positive, negative, and indifferent in terms of seeding and possibly having teams in a CFL style where you could cross over from the Western Conference, maybe even if you're a higher seed, because as we know, the Western Conference was so much better than the East this year?
And historically it's been better.
Yeah.
But no, I don't think so. I think, you know, even though the Western Conference has been better overall, the champions more often come from the Eastern Conference. So what does that tell you? I'm not sure.
Right.
So I think you want to have an opportunity for a team to get to the playoffs in that region and then show improvement. So if you just have the best teams playing in the playoffs, I think that hurts the fans in those markets where maybe it's not quite as strong. So I do think that there is a value to having a division. To be able to say that you won an Atlantic division is worth something, and it does help in your seeding. So, no, I'm not necessarily in favor of scrapping it. Yes, there's some inequities, but that will always be the case.
If you are the general manager of the Raptors sitting in this position right now, forget about the process, long-term development, otherwise, what's the one move that you are focused on right now that you think you need to make to improve this basketball team?
Well, I think they need to upgrade their talent level and
At a specific position, or
probably a wing position. You know, whether they Terrence Ross is good enough or not, I'm not sure. He's still a young player. Is he committed to getting better? Is he working on his game? Does he have the mindset to be a starting two-guy in this league? I think the jury's out on that. If you can find someone that can keep DeRozan in the starting lineup and also, then have a better matchup for the bigger small forwards, I think that was something I would be looking forward to. Valanciunas, I think, is still a young player with an upside. I think he's a very effective player.
people forget about his age.
Yeah.
Like I'm pretty sure I'm the same age right now as Jonas Valanciunas. He's 23, is he not?
Something like that.
Yeah, he's around there. And I look at him and I see a 7-foot man with a beard bashing with Dwight Howard and some of the best centers in the league. And then I look at me and I go, why is everyone ripping on Jonas Valanciunas? Because he is in such a difficult position, right? And he kind of follows along, and from being there, the trend of highly drafted guy, doesn't matter whether it's Raptors, Leafs, Jays, otherwise, if you're a highly drafted prospect coming up, there are expectations that are sometimes far above what you can possibly achieve. Do you think he's been slotted into that characterization of, is there any time that Jonas Valanciunas can achieve what we need or what we expect of him, or is he just doomed based on the fact that Toronto sports media wants to eat anyone alive who has any kind of difficulty young in their career?
Well, he's sort of a divisive player in the media, right? Because half the people felt he should have played more, particularly in fourth quarters, and half the people felt he shouldn't have played at all.
People in the 500 sections thought that he should have played a little bit more too. I'll tell you that.
So no, I think he's a young player developing. Obviously, he's limited in terms of his athleticism, but he's a smart, tough, and skilled player. So I think there's a position for him. And you have to build a roster where he fits in, where you can compensate for his deficiencies and maximize the skills that he does have.
Well, we wish the Raptors all the best of luck, and again, I'm gone from Mac now, so I wish you all the best of luck as McMaster Athletics Director. I'm always there, but impartial on OUA Today as I cover everyone. But I really do appreciate you joining, stopping by, because your insight on a variety of levels I think is very unique to the OUA situation. It's a lot of fun to talk hoops with you because I've been a lifelong hoops head, as anyone who watches the show knows. So thank you for stopping by.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it, and we'll be right back after the break, everyone. Continue to listen to OUA Today and follow us on OUA Today on Twitter, and also listen along on CFMU 93.3.
After the final ball has flown, and the final catch made, and the last screaming fan has left the stadium, the ball is passed from one team member to the next so the players can sign their names. But of all the names, there is one on that ball that is perhaps the most important. That name is Wilson. Good luck this season.
Welcome back, everyone, to OUA Today. I am joined now by University of Ryerson Rams Dr. Ivan Joseph, the athletic director of the Ryerson Rams. Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure, my pleasure.
Exciting year for you at Ryerson. A lot going on. First, let's talk about the CIS finally. Your overall kind of idea of how it went, how it was organized, and your impressions now that it's been completed.
Well, obviously my response will be a biased answer, but we were very pleased with the outcome. We thought our teams played well. We thought the fan engagement, we thought the community supported us. All in all, I don't think it could have been a better experience for the athletes and for surely highlighting the university's reputation.
Yeah, you say it's biased, but I was there covering it for the media, and it was fantastic. It was great. The venue that you have there at Ryerson is so unique to the rest of the OUA. What advantage does that give you moving forward in a variety of different sports? Because I mean, you could put almost any major event inside that arena. It is the perfect size for university athletics.
Yeah, it normally seats 2,800. We packed it in about 4,000 with the floor seating. But that Maple Leaf Gardens and now Mattamy Athletic Center, it's recognized as one of the 3 historic buildings in Canada.
Right.
You've got the CN Tower, you've got the Parliament buildings, and you got, Maple Leaf Gardens. There's not many more buildings that have a national reputation. So what it really does is it attracts national athletic talent to us. It attracts the casual fan that wants to come in and poke their head in and see what we have to offer. And it gives you a professional feel to CIS. It is no different than the ACC, only on a smaller scale from a fan experience.
Yeah, it is, like you say, it's smaller, but the actual fan experience that you're having, every person that's there feels engaged because you're so close to the courts. Now, the Pan Am Games, the basketball is being hosted there as well, right?
Yes.
Is there going to be a similar environment, you think, inside that gym?
So, funny you say that. The Pan Am's used that event, the CIS, as the test event for what they wanted to do. So the 150 volunteers that we had, most of them were Pan Am volunteers. They were there taking notes. They loved a lot of stuff that we did. They took some lessons and best practices, and they're going to use that to carry forward to make it even better show for them.
What suggestions would they take coming out of that that could be possible improvements? I'm just interested because there were so many things that were great about the event. It's tough to nitpick, but if you had to pick something coming out of it that they want to improve towards the Pan Am Games.
It's little things like we had the angle of the bleachers that were on the far end, or that were in the concourse. Right? We had a space for people to walk in front of them to get to the bleachers.
Right.
They said, you know what, we want those right up against the railings, and we'll have entrance only from the ends, because there was so much standing room. They wanted more accessible seating, right? Those were the types of experience. But they loved how it wasn't in Pan Am Games to build the bleachers so high on the north end.
Yeah.
They loved how we did that. And it's like, you know what, that really created for a really tight, intimate bowl. Let's make sure we have that.
You know you hosted a high-quality event when they're nitpicking on fire exits and seating arrangements to try and improve the event. That's very interesting. But your personal experience in sport, ahead of being an administrator and executive in any kind of way, what did you play? What did you love? What's your passion?
I was a track and field soccer athlete down in the States. I was a dual athlete. So I coached soccer for many years, still do on the side. But I'm a PhD sports psychologist, and so my involvement is with the U.S. National B team, the Olympic Festival program, the Canadian World CISM Championships for the military games here. But really, you know, I'm an educator first and foremost. And, you know, coaching soccer, I mean, I'm probably better suited to coach anything else but soccer, but for me, it's the interaction with young students, young men, young women, and that ability to engage them in that transforming life experience.
What about sports psychology enamors you, and how have you been able to apply that to being involved in Ontario University athletics?
Well, I think people realize that it's not your talent that defines your success. It's grit, it's self-confidence, it's all those intangible things. How many people that are so talented fall off? And I recognize that in order for me to be successful, I went from being a coach to being an AD, that I'm going to outwork anybody, right? I can learn anything. I recognize that it's my mental attributes that I can apply to this job that will make up for any shortcomings and experience and talent that I may have. And that's really been always my kind of go-to. It's, you know, it is not your abilities that determine what you will do. It is how hard you work at putting them in.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. When I always think of the comparable, I'll switch a little bit here to recruiting. Right in the heart of the city, and for so long the conversation in football in Ontario has been, why are Toronto and York not better? Because there's so many incredible athletes that are coming out of, you know, and it's tough to say coming out of that area because that area has grown and grown and grown. But in terms of the GTA, being able to keep the very best athletes at home. When you think about a Syracuse, they brand themselves as New York's university, right?
Yeah.
That's what they want to be, and they want to keep guys from New York City, from Brooklyn, from Manhattan. They want them to be a part of their team. How much of an emphasis in recruiting at Ryerson in a variety of sports kind of leans on the idea of keeping the very best Toronto athletes at home to be marketable and also to succeed?
Well, I'll tell you, 8 years ago when I took this job, every single one of our programs but one had losing records, right? And so really the focus was to create a first-class experience. In order to do that, there's really simply three legs of a stool. One, hire the very best coaches that have a national reputation for excellence. Roy Rand, a national team. Carly Clark, national team. Lisa Haley, national team. Right? All of these coaches, Dustin Reed, national team Olympian. All of these coaches have that pedigree. Number two, provide opportunities for athletes that are sexy and enticing, that will rival the American experience. Full-time strength and conditioning coach. Give athletic scholarships. Get all the nicest, best gear. Create amazing trips and exhibition schedules. Attract quality student athletes. And the third thing, create opportunities to train and compete that will rival everybody. If you have that, that's the recruiting secret recipe for secret, right? Or what is it? Recruiting recipe for success.
The recipe for success. We're not cooks. I'm a radio host and he's an athletic director. Get over it.
Happy to be here, right? That is, seriously, that's the recipe. And if you can do that, then you don't have to worry about attracting the best recruits to stay home. What you're really just trying to do is put the best athlete possible in your house.
Yeah, it's very true. I mean, because you can pull from anywhere as long as they're getting the correct experience, right, and the correct education as well. Your RTA School of Media, I talked to you a little bit off camera about it, but it's a huge draw, right? And I mean, you get so many applicants, and I know that it's difficult to get accepted sometimes to Ryerson, not just for the RTA School of Media, but also for a variety of things. But how much does the educational side at Ryerson play into being able to attract that quality student athlete and get that person in that experience and everything you just talked about with those 3 legs of the stool.
100%, right? You know, we have 70,000 applications for 4,000 freshman spots.
Wow.
A strong academic program goes hand in hand with a strong athletic program. You look at the Stanfords, the Dukes, right? Those aren't average schools. Those are schools that have outstanding reputations, and Canadian schools are on par with Ivies. I mean, I was down in the States, and I know what a quality Ivy League school is.
Yep.
What I would say is that too many schools will make an excuse, we don't have phys ed, so we can't get athletes, or we don't have this, we can't get athletes. You know, the truth of the matter is every school has something they're very, very, very good at. Find your niche and don't make excuses. You will attract the best students in those programs.
How long until Dr. Joseph is bringing football to Ryerson?
You know,
because as a 5-year OUA football athlete, I'm a sucker for playing in fantasy land, and my idea was always, how incredible would it be to find some way to play a game against Ryerson in downtown Toronto, because it's just such an amazing environment. Your campus is surrounded by the heart of the city. You are really right in the middle of that pulse.
A block away from Dundas.
Exactly, of one of the greatest cities in the world. You know, you have NBA players that come up here, and you've been involved in American athletics, so you understand how Toronto compares to a variety of other major cities, I'm sure.
Yeah.
NBA guys come up here all the time, they say, man, I love Toronto, I'd love to play there, I would love this and that. So when you look at it, my idea, again, Fantasyland was always, is there any chance of Ryerson ever being interested in football moving forward?
I would say that there's always a chance.
Okay.
Always a chance.
Yeah. So has anybody had any conversations, or is it just an idea that is?
I probably entertain a phone call once every 6 months regarding football.
Yeah.
You know, a big ally of trying to get football at Ryerson is Rob Ford, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised by that. He's a big football guy, but are there more detractors at times? Because there's University of Alabama at Birmingham recently lost their football program, and it was because they said that there were more negatives to having a football program than positives. And everyone wants to have a football program for the revenue and creating the sexy experience that you're talking about, getting the right student athletes, because football is king, obviously more in the NCAA than here, but it is kind of the marquee sport in a variety of different arenas. Are there more detractors, do you think, at times, because you're one of the only schools that has to have this conversation of, you know, we're viable, we're very profitable, we're in a great situation, we could probably pick a different place we wanted to play in terms of arena, but are there more negatives than positives in some respects?
I wouldn't link it to football. I think I would link it this way, that anytime you bring a new sport on, you need to make sure that that sport can be successful. And in order to do that, the first thing I always say is, do we have enough resources to fund the sports we currently have? Right? And right now, we would say no. Not until I have full-time assistants, full model of scholarships, like all the best things that we can do to support our current student athletes. Then, if we have that, then it's, can we sustainably fund any new sport? Whether it's football, whether it's rugby, whatever it is. That's really the only detractor. The more student athletes that we can have that fit what we are, which is a high quality academic institution, the better it is for our campus to be engaged, the more enriching it is for our community.
The athletes that you do have, the sports that you do have, you're talking about trying to create that winning culture that every organization strives for. How close do you think you are to being able to achieve the goal that you probably had when you came in 8 years ago of, I'm going to take what Ryerson is known as and turn it into blank? What is blank, and how close are you to achieving blank?
Well, blank is to be in a position to be nationally recognized as a center of excellence in athletics. And we're very close in some of our sports, but it's got to be straight across the board. When I say it's, you know, in Canada, the closest thing probably is what we'll call Laval football, maybe Alberta's straight across their department. McMaster's got it there in volleyball, maybe football, but where every program,
let's not get crazy.
Where every program has a legitimate opportunity to win a championship. We're close, but we're not there yet. We've turned teams that didn't, like 8 years ago, one team had a winning record. Now 7 of our 8 teams are nationally ranked. I'll know we're there when every single team qualifies for the tournament and has an opportunity to win a medal. It's not so much the winning, but it's the opportunity to win that really defines the success.
That's very well said. I appreciate you coming on, Dr. Joseph.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it. Anytime, you're welcome back on the show. We'll be right back after the break, everyone, here on CFMU 93.3 and OUA Today.
The road trip. It's freedom. It's exploration. It's about new experiences. And this road trip has been brought to you by Pioneer Bonus Bucks.
Welcome back to OUA Today, everyone. Marshall Ferguson alongside Waterloo Warriors Athletic Director Roly Webster. Roly, thank you for joining the show. First time live on OUA Today. We've talked about you a bunch because you're one of the more active guys on Twitter in the OUA, which we love. You sent out the pink shirt day, which was very important, a great cause to support as well. Give me your thoughts on the state of Waterloo Warriors athletics as it stands right now.
Well, the reason why I joined it is its opportunity. I think we have a foundation that is a great institution, internationally reputable for research and a great degree. So that's the foundation, and we have a great tool and co-op to recruit to. So athletically, it's lots of opportunity. And that's not to say we don't have some great programs. We have some great people and we're doing some great things, but there's such an opportunity to build a foundation that is the institution.
Yeah, the thing for me has always been, as an athlete that played in the OUA and the CIS for football, that Waterloo gets the knives thrown at them every time you talk about the basement dwellers of football or of various athletics teams. But what people don't realize is every single OUA school has their niche, has what they are great at. And that might not necessarily be football at this second. Is that going to mean that it's not going to be in 5 years? Absolutely not, right? Is that something that you kind of build your athletic department around right now? The fact that there is an upswing, it's coming, and that's what we're aiming towards, and there's always a goal in mind?
Yeah, when I got there, there's a question of, is there a commitment from the institution for athletics and recreation? And absolutely there is, and that's why I'm there. I truly believe that. We have the support from the administration. We need to take responsibility and point thumbs and not fingers, and I think there's a huge upswing. I mean, football is just a microcosm of the department, but it's a big investment, and when your number one stakeholder is the students, we need to justify any investment, and so that was really my priority when I got there, and we're committed. That means we're all in. We're going to work our butts off, and we started by hiring, I think, the right leader. That's not going to get outworked, and we'll see what the results are on the scoreboard.
Yep, that was my next question for you. The hire of your head coach, Chris Pertois, a Waterloo alumni who has come back. What makes him the right pick for you as a head coach?
I mean, just talk to him. He vibrates. He's so passionate. People. The only criticism was maybe just he's never been a CIS head coach. I'm okay with that.
Neither has anyone else before they became a coach, right?
That's right. You know a gentleman that you have as a leader, but what he didn't do before he became a CIS head coach. So, but he understands the climate. He knows how to recruit like no other coach in the country. I mean, he can compete with anyone on the recruiting front, and he understands an academic climate that is the University of Waterloo. And when you're going through a process like that and you have a great candidate pool, do you need to have an alumnus leader program? Not necessarily, not at all. But it's definitely a nice to have. And so the benefit of that is the fact that you quickly engage the alumni because they're dying to have a program that's going to be successful again. He lived it. He lived it in a period that we had the most success in our history. And so he sat in those seats that the kids do today in that locker room. And so he understands it. And like I said, he will not get outworked. I can guarantee that.
Last one for you here. Getting a little raucous out in the lobby as everyone wants to leave. Now we're all done the awards section of the honor awards. But give me kind of 3 quick hit points of goals that you have, something you want to work on to head off the direction in the way that you want of the athletic department at Waterloo moving forward. Just a couple of quick points of things that are on your mind that are every day when you wake up, you think this is something I want to work towards.
I mean, visionary is the fact that if our reputation aligns with the institutions, we're in good shape. And I think there's lots of work to ever achieve that. But I mean, the opportunity is the facilities, it's the state of our facilities. We've already got some commitment to move forward with some of that. The opportunity is that in an academic institution where research is so focused, we can play a role in that. And then the other is, having been in higher ed and really in student affairs throughout my career, is there's such a focus in wellness, and it's highlighted usually by mental health these days. And we have to play a role. On every campus, we have to play a role in that. And so that's our niche, to build our relevance within an academic community, and I think that's how we'll build our brand on our campus, but in the league as well.
It's great to hear, and it's, again, as a former OUA CIS athlete, you never want to see any program being questioned. I know there was a period there where football, people were talking about whether or not it would be around. It's here to stay. We're happy it's here to stay. We look forward to the development of the team. Thanks for your time.
Great.
Really do appreciate it. All the best, and we'll be sure to have you back on live on camera sometime soon.
All right.
That does it for the show this week, everyone. Thank you for listening. Tune in next week when we'll be talking about an OUA football athlete getting signed to an NFL team, several athletes from around the conference and country getting named to the Pan Am Games and Summer Universiade, and much, much more. In the meantime, have yourselves a great week.